Hi everyone, it's Sarah from Sassy Reads, and today I'm going to continue talking about some of the books that I read in 2018, but I'm going to review a single book because I promised that I would try to review every single book that I give 5 stars to. And let me tell you, since making this promise, I have read a good bit of 5-star novels, so there may be just a lot of single reviews in this random film session, and I hope you don't mind that, but they're such wonderful novels that I feel like they deserve a whole video, even if the video is only a couple minutes long. I really want to shed light onto these novels, especially this particular novel. I listened to the audiobook of Anne Frank Remembered by Miep Gies and Allison Leslie Gold. It was narrated by Barbara Rosenblatt, and this is a really famous story. Everyone knows the story of Anne Frank and how she was a young woman who was hiding in an annex during the Nazi occupation in Poland, and she was helped by Miep Gies as well as her husband and a few other people who worked in the business that Mr. Frank owned before giving it away when the Nazis took over. So this is a really heartfelt novel. Obviously I gave it 5 stars, but it wasn't because I gave it 5 stars because of the content and the fact that it has such historical significance, which I do see a lot of people do. They feel bad giving a novel less than 5 stars because it's a historical account, but I gave this 5 stars because Miep Gies is such an inspirational woman. She talks about how she doesn't see herself as a hero, and she just sees herself as a woman who is trying to help friends. And to me, I find her to be such a remarkable character and figure within history. And I find it surprising that not very many people know the name Miep Gies. I mean, we know the name Anne Frank, and we know Otto Frank, and we know, different types of other figures from this time, like Elie Wiesel and others. And there's so many names and so many people and so many lives who were taken too soon, and tragedies. And these people have become historical figures in our society, and they definitely are important because they teach us not to forget. And I think that this is an important novel because it shows the Franks and the other families and people hiding within the annex from another perspective. We're seeing it from a woman who is just trying to save their lives, and there's such fear and panic and anxiety in this woman's life. She's constantly fighting for rations, and she talks about going blocks away to grocery stores and walking or riding her bike just so she can get food for these people. And the food eventually becomes basically food you wouldn't even feed a pet pig. It's rotted, it's disgusting, it's subpar, and it really shows that not only were the people who were being put in concentration camps struggling, but the people in the countries were struggling as well. They were under such strongholds, and they were not given basically proper living environments, and because of this so many people became sick and they died. And there were a couple times when Miep and her husband would get sick, and they thought, are we going to make it? Are we going to be able to go and help the Franks? And that was always at the forefront of their mind, was if we get sick, we can't go over there because we can't get them sick because they're not in a place to get help. And even when there was a doctor up there with them, if the doctor would get sick, then what are they going to do? And it's such a wonderful story because the story of Anne Frank is so well known, but the story of Miep Gies is kind of forgotten. And I feel like that's really how it is with most stories, especially in vast historical time periods like World War II. World War II takes place over a long time, and there were so many build-ups before it even started, and a lot of stuff is kind of not talked about because it's not as important as certain aspects that were monumental. And I feel like a lot of people don't think about the people who were fighting to save those that they were hiding, and so many people could lose their lives or find their own selves within these camps with the people that they were trying to save. And it's really scary and horrifying, and I could never imagine how that fear just became such a part of daily life. And she talked about that in this piece. And Anne Frank Remembered is one of the best nonfiction novels I've ever read. I don't read nonfiction a lot, but I do like listening to them on audio, and I feel like this audiobook was done stunningly well. Barbara Rosenblatt is a superb narrator. She really just captures the story in essence very well, and I felt like she was Miep Gies, even though I knew like that wasn't what Miep Gies sounded like. I felt like I was listening to Miep Gies recount her own narrative to me and her own life story and the struggles that she faced and her love for the Franks and her love for her husband and her love for her country, and how just being a citizen of Vienna saved her life and was able to allow her to save Anne Frank's diary. And if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have the diary, because no one really thought about it except for her. And her story is remarkable. I highly recommend not only reading this novel, but doing a little bit of research on the background. In the beginning of this audiobook, Allison Leslie Gold, who helped write this, she interviewed the Miep Gies, and she has an interview at the beginning where she talks about how this has been made into a movie, and like how she approached Miep Gies and her husband, how they were very against talking about it, but they were eventually more prone and almost excited about sharing their story, because they realized that they were the last of these people who had anything to do with the annex. And so like it was really important for them to preserve this part of history, because it could have been forgotten. And I'm so happy that Allison Leslie Gold was persistent in talking to the Gieses, and because of her persistence and her love for the preservation of history, we have this wonderful historical account of someone outside of Anne Frank's diary talking about some of the details of the Franks' hiding situation. And it's really interesting to compare the two, and you can see how some of what happened in the Frank and Anne Frank's diary was perceived as very different from the standpoint of an adult, and it's just very interesting. I highly recommend Anne Frank Remembered. I think that if you're interested in audiobooks, or if you just want to kind of have a good tear fest, because this is a really sad novel. It shows the hardest parts of humanity and the worst of human actions. But it also shows the best, because the Franks are such wonderful people. Miep Gies has such a wonderful story, and just seeing their personality shine through, it makes us remember that they're not only just historical figures who lost their lives, but they were people, and they had ambitions and dreams and goals, and they had personalities that were, you know, a little funny and out there, and that they clashed with each other, but they also really loved each other. And I just highly recommend this novel. I think it's a great historical account, and I don't see a whole lot of people reading it, which I find really surprising, because I feel like this should be much more popular. So I'm hoping that you now are a little bit more interested in the story of Miep Gies and Anne Frank Remembered. And I hope to see you down below in the comments. Let me know if you're interested in checking this one out, or if you're familiar with Miep Gies' story, or if you have read the novel yourself. I look forward to seeing you down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and happy reading. Bye!